So this is the Samsung Galaxy A80. Now this is quite a unique device because of the mechanism for the camera itself. But apart from that, there is quite a bit to talk about this device and some things that make me worry about this device and whether this is an option you should look at. Because this has a Snapdragon 730, which is about equivalent to the Snapdragon 835 according to some benchmarks. So the question for me is this really worth the amount that it's stated at? But in turn you do get a unique feature with this camera, so your front-facing camera is a high quality camera. But this is the A80 and let's find out a bit about this phone and of course my first impressions. Still, I'm a bit worried, but in turn I do like the display itself. It's an AMOLED display. But we don't have a headphone jack, we don't have a micro SD either, so those two things made me even worry more about the device. Anyway, let's set it up and, well, my first impressions about it. So back with the phone again. Now for this phone we again have an under the display fingerprint scanner. Again, this is not the same as on the Samsung Galaxy S10, but more like we've seen on OnePlus, Vivo and Oppo and so on. Basically the 2D camera kind of system. Well, first we're gonna create a pattern. Let's just for now keep it really simple. And then of course we have our fingerprint. Now like I said, as you can see, it lights up the entire part because this is a 2D one, so it needs the light to actually register your fingerprint. Again, I'm not the biggest fan of this one. Basically a 2D mapping of it. And also it's not as reliable as I would like it to be, at least on the A50. Get a full scan. Okay, continue. Anyway, about this device itself, some things that I already noticed is a two-tone color difference here. I don't think it should be, but the reflection seems very different on this one. And on this one, this is more a gloss metal-like, and this is less gloss, if that makes sense. But also a slight color difference between the two. Not the biggest fan of that. Also, there is a slight movement with this system for the camera itself. So I can slightly push it left to right. And also, of course, the mechanism itself doesn't feel as sturdy as I want it to be. But in turn, I've seen how it's engineered. At least someone, sorry, I cannot remember the name, but someone posted it online. It's quite a complicated mechanism. So we're back, and this is the Samsung Galaxy A80 in its full glory. Now actually the size of it is slightly larger than the Samsung Galaxy S10. But in turn it does feel quite large as well, but it also has quite a bit of weight to it. Now the first thing of course that probably everyone is curious for is how this camera actually works. Okay, so it is really noisy, but so far it seems to be working well. There are some people, however, who have problems with this, where it's being stuck on this part, and when you pull it down it doesn't really work anymore. But so far it works fine. The good thing about it is, again, if you care for selfies, you get a good quality camera, at least a good quality compared to some other front-facing cameras that you normally get. But you do need a rotating system like this. For myself, I'm not the biggest fan of selfies anyway, so I don't really care that much about it. But in turn, I also think for a full display, we somehow want to remove a lot of features. I'm not the biggest fan of that. In terms of camera, we of course get our 3 camera setup, but also a time of flight sensor. Now this time of flight sensor allows for depth information to be captured better than normal. So it should allow for better blurred background effects or bokeh or however you want to name it. So that's quite interesting, but we'll see how it goes. Anyway, in terms of understanding this device, I'm not sure about this device and if it makes a lot of sense. Again, this is 650 euros if I'm correct out of math. So that's quite expensive for a device that has a CPU that has equal power to the Snapdragon 835 or slightly below it if I'm even sure. So I'm not sure if this device is something you should get. However, it is an interesting concept, and if you care about selfies, then this or the Asus Zenfone 5 is actually something you might want to consider. But if you are a regular user, I'm not so sure. But for my full judgment, I would hold that for using this device for a longer period of time and see how it actually holds up. Anyway, I'm going to make a video again about this device and answering your questions like I did with the Sony Xperia 1. So be sure to leave a comment below what your questions are about this device. Anyway, this is the Samsung Galaxy A80, and talk to you guys in the next one.